Okay, to graph this problem, you were talking about needing to make a table work, and I'm assuming that you meant a table of values. So let's go ahead and start with our function. Instead of saying f of x that right here that we have, let's just go ahead and use y equal. So let's use y equal the square root of 64 minus x squared. So choosing a table of values, let's go ahead and choose some things like -8, and these are values for x. So let's choose -8. We could also choose something like, we could choose some other values too, let's say like -5, 0, 5, and 8. Now some of these we're going to get some nice answers for, other ones not so much because they'll be decimals. So for -8, if we plug in -8, I get the square root of 64 minus, and then I have to square a -8, and we have to be really careful about how you write this. I'm squaring the negative and the 8, so here it's important that the negative and the 8 both be in parentheses. So rewriting here, I get 64, -8 times -8 is a 64, so 64 minus 64 is 0, and the square root of 0 is 0. So this is the ordered pair -8, 0. Now this graph does not have -8, 0. This graph over here does have -8, 0, so it's potentially a correct graph. This graph also has the point -8, 0, and so does this one. So all of these are potential solutions now. Now -5, I would plug in 64 minus a -5 quantity squared, and again we're squaring the -5, so we need to make sure you have parentheses around the negative and the 5. So this is 64 minus 25. And if we look at 64 minus 25, this is the square root of 39. Now 39 doesn't have a perfect square, so what I'm going to need to do is to come up with an approximation, and it's about 6.24. 6.24. So this is the ordered pair -5, 6.24. So -5, 6.24. Well, the point -5, 6.24 is in the second quadrant. So this graph I can throw out now is not a possibility because I don't have the -5 and the 6.24, because that would be somewhere up in here. So now I have B and D left. Let's go ahead and plug in a 0. If I plug in a 0, I have 64 minus 0 squared. So that's the square root of 64, which is 8. So this is the ordered pair 0, 8. So if we look at our graph again, 0, 8 is right here on this axis. It's this point and this point, so I can't really eliminate a graph from there now. So plugging in a 5, I'm just going to get 6.24 again. You can go through and verify that. So the point 5, 6.24, that's in both B and D. And then 8, if I plug in an 8, I'll get 0 back as well. So what ends up happening here is I see that when I plugged in the 5, I only got a point up here. I did not get the point down in this region in the fourth quadrant. When I plugged in a -5, I only got the point up here. I did not get the point down here in this region, so this graph is not possible. So that leaves D as my possible solution. Hope this clarifies things.